weil der Mensch ein Mensch ist, drum braucht er was zum Essen, bitte sehr. Es macht ihn ein Geschwätz nicht satt, das schafft kein Essen her.
Drum links, zwei, drei, drum links, zwei, drei, wo dein Platz genossen ist, weil ich heim in die Arbeit einheimst und weil du auch ein Arbeiter bist.
Und weil der Mensch ein Mensch ist, drum hat der Stiefel im Gesicht nicht gern. Er will unter sich keinen Sklaven sehen und über sich keinen Herrn.
Drum links, zwei, drei, drum links, zwei, drei, wo dein Platz genossen ist, weil ich heim in die Arbeit einheimst und weil du auch ein Arbeiter bist.
Und weil der Prolet ein Prolet ist, drum wird ihn kein anderer befreien. Es kann die Befreiung der Arbeiter nur das Werk der Arbeiter sein.
Drum links, zwei, drei, drum links, zwei, drei, wo dein Platz genossen ist, weil ich heim in die Arbeit einheimst und weil du auch ein Arbeiter bist.
Здравствуйте, comrades. Welcome to Socialism Saturday. Socialism Saturday is where we watch the real far left. Not the Democrats. They're not the far left. Not the progressives. They're not the far left. Not even the Democratic Socialists, because the real far left believes that the Democratic Socialists are way too close to capitalism to merit a moment of their time or consideration. They literally call them neoliberals. We watch the furthest of the far left, the radical revolutionary socialists, the most dystopian of the dystopian. And the reason that we take several hours out of our schedule on a Saturday night when we could be out doing something fun, we could be at the movies, we could be at the bar, we could be at the club, we could be, roaming the streets. We could be doing any number of things, but no, we choose to watch socialism on Saturdays because the people that we see on Socialism Saturday are the people that are driving every single insane agenda item in the world today. If you are wondering who is pushing critical race theory into public schools, it is the people we watch on Socialism Saturday. If you are wondering who is pushing gender ideology on your kids and attacking parental rights, it is the people we watch on Socialism Saturday. If you are wondering who is making the climate crisis a social change issue, it is the people we watch on Socialism Saturday. If you're wondering who wants to defund the police and basically make all crime legal in your cities, it is the people that we watch on Socialism Saturday. Every crazy idea that is inundating the culture today has an origin point, and it is the far left radical revolutionary socialists that own all of our institutions, all of higher education, all of our K through 12 schools, and many other things as well. These are the people that are causing all of the problems. And if you do not understand who the people are and what they believe, then you can never, ever, 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 ever beat them. And I think that we've got a pretty good episode for tonight. I'm actually really excited about this because does anyone remember a couple of months ago when conservatives on Twitter were all aflutter over banners that looked like this: Queers for Palestine? Or there was another banner that said something to the effect of we aren't free until queers aren't free until Palestinians are free, or something like that. Do you guys remember this? And conservatives were using it as this big virtue signal to be like, no, it's not the Palestinians who you want to save, it's us, because Palestinians are homophobic and we are not homophobic. We swear, pinky swear, promise, bro. And this stuff was all over Twitter. And magically, there was no one explaining to conservatives or anyone else sharing this image what this actually means. Because this isn't crazy. If you know how to speak socialist, you understand what this means. Pop quiz for the chat. Why does Queers for Palestine make sense? Does anyone know the answer to this? I know some of you know the answer to this. Why does it make sense that the far left would be holding up signs that say Queers for Palestine? We're going to find out more about this tonight, but I want to see what you guys have to say off the bat. Yeah. Magically, we all saw this coming, didn't we? We knew this was going to happen when all this stuff kicked off. Because queer is not a sexuality. Queer is an ideology. Queer is a far left political ideology. You do not have to be gay to be queer. You don't have to be trans to be queer. You can be a straight cis white male and still be queer, because all that is required to be queer is to say that you are queer. What are some other reasons this might happen? Queer is a political movement against capitalism. Yup, that's exactly right. Stony Baloney says they are united in their struggle against oppression, and no one is free unless everyone is free. Specifically, what are they trying to free themselves of? Because queer means opposition to the norm, and the norm is capitalism. That's right. When Stony Baloney says that the left believes that no one is free unless everyone is free, free from what? Free from capitalism, because Israel, the Jews, are the symbolic of capitalism. They are the settlers in the region. This is like going back to settler colonialism. Settler colonialism is imposing the oppressive force of capitalism on the previously collectivized land of the indigenous peoples. And the whole point of decolonization is not about violent revolution, although it can involve violent revolution, but it doesn't always have to. Decolonization is the idea of removing the oppressive force of capitalism and taking back the land and giving it back to the indigenous peoples, where they will, of course, collectivize it under socialism. Let's see some other ideas. Rottweiler says, because Palestine is oppressed by capitalism, Israel, since Jews are capitalism, since Marx and Hegel. Exactly, because Palestine is oppressed by capitalism. Queer is a political ideology. You guys are so much smarter than James Lindsay's audience. It's not even funny, because queer Marxism is against capitalism. Exactly. Queers and Palestinians are both oppressed by capitalism. Palestine is oppressed under capitalism through colonization. You guys are so smart. The smartest people about the far left on the internet. You're welcome. Queers are socialists. They see the Jews as the embodiment of capitalism. The queer have a shared struggle with the enemy of their enemy. You guys are so good. So good. See, we don't even need to watch the presentations we're going to watch tonight to know why this is actually a thing. You guys are already smarter than everyone on the political right, but we're going to do our due diligence, because unlike other people on the internet that just read papers by dead philosophers all day, we actually go and do our due diligence. And what we do on Socialism Saturday is we listen to the far left. We listen to what they say. We listen to them in their full form. We listen to the boring bits. We listen to the cringy bits. And we do that so we can analyze the language and the perspective to make sure we understand why stuff like this is showing up in the world. And we've got a possibly two-parter. I'm not 100% sure we're going to do both parts of this, but we might. We're going to do the first part of it, and then we're going to see. But I found today on a little tiny little YouTube channel with 21 subscribers, I found a two-part lecture, I guess, presentation, whatever it is, called Our Role in Palestinian Liberation as Queer Jews. And there's a part 1 and there's a part 2. Now, both of these things together is about 3 hours long, which means for us to watch it, it would probably take 9.5 hours. So I'm not convinced we're going to do both parts today. We're going to kind of play it out and see. But we're going to see how part 1 goes, and then we're going to assess whether or not we want to do the part 2. But let me read to you. Now, this is on something called the Queer Mikvah Project. I don't know what this is. I don't know Yiddish or anything, but I looked up what a mikvah is to do my due diligence. And apparently, it is a bath used for the purpose of ritual immersion in Judaism to achieve ritual purity. I still don't know how it relates to this, but if anyone in the chat knows what exactly that means, like, and can explain it to me, that would be awesome. Stony Baloney, what is the biggest socialist YouTube page? Who gets the most views? See, the thing of it is, Stony Baloney, the people who get the most, the people who claim to be socialist, who get the most views on YouTube, aren't really socialist. So you get someone like Vosh. Vosh is not a socialist. You look like someone like Hassan Piker. Hassan Piker is not really a socialist. You look at someone like Sam Cedar, who likes to dabble in socialism quite a bit. He's not really a socialist. He's a progressive. Like, and you know this because you can listen to them and you can kind of suss out when they're using socialist language. I don't know why my video is all of a sudden wonky, but hopefully that'll correct itself. Anyway, so I don't actually know the answer to that, is where I'm going to start. Why is my video being wonky? Okay, kind of seems like it's back. Okay, I don't know if you guys could see that. Anyway, so let me read you the description. And this is very recent. This was on December 12th, 2023. The Queer Mikvah Project invites you to part 1 of a conversation about the ways we as queer Jews are particularly positioned to support Palestinian liberation. Of course, anytime we see the word liberation, we know that means to liberate from capitalism, to free oneself from capitalism. We'll explore and deepen our understanding of the intersections with queer liberation, climate justice, and international indigenous solidarity. We'll focus on the themes of water and how the oceans connect our struggles and give us strength to truth tell and take action for water sovereignty for Palestine. As queers and as Jews, Zionism is enacted doubly in our names. We invite you to join us. We invite you to join other anti-Zionist queer Jews to learn, connect, and strengthen our capacity to dismantle Zionist myth in our solidarity work. If you've ever been curious about any of these questions, this panel is for you. What the heck is pinkwashing or greenwashing? Why do people keep using the claim that Jews are indigenous to Palestine as a way to justify Zionism? Who are Jewish Palestinians and Arab Jews? What is the water crisis in Palestine? How can we use our bodies, which are mostly made of water, as agents of change to align with global movements for liberation? How can we mobilize our Jewish and queer communities to work for a free Palestine? Oh, we have resources. Oh, I didn't even notice there was a link to resources. Let me get that popped up. Let me see what that is. Oh, look, guys, we have a worksheet. We have a worksheet. I will put it in the chat if anyone wants to download the worksheet. Here you go. Here you go, Rumble. We appreciate you guys as well. So some stuff to help us on our journey. Oh, look, we've got disability justice. We've got abolition, which is anytime you see the word abolition, that's in regards to prison abolition or abolishing the carceral system. Why is this like really, really big? There we go. That's better. Abolition, disability justice, demilitarization and nuclear. Okay, that's legit. Anti-Semitism from a collective liberation framework. Anti-Zionist Jewish organizing / ritual. Arab Jews. Boycott, divest, and sanctions. Pinkwashing, greenwashing. That was very nice of them to provide us with a worksheet. We got a whole bunch of people. Let's see. We've got a she, her. We've got a he, him. We have... This one doesn't have any pronouns. In Boston, near me. We have an any pronoun, and we have a they, them. It's not a queer presentation if you don't have a they, them. And then maybe we will go and watch the second half of this. Maybe. I want to see if there's just anything different in the description. I don't think there is. But we're going to see how the first part goes, and then we're going to decide if we want to watch the second part. That is what we're doing on the stream today, guys. I hope you guys are down for it. Let me know by mounting that like button for me. As always, mounting the like button is a free way that you can support my channel because I'm massively shadow banned on YouTube because I have not been playing the algorithm game for a while now. I've actually been shadow banned for like a long ass time, but every once in a while I play the algorithm game and I get unshadow banned for a little while and then I stop playing it because it's really hard to keep up with, and I get shadow banned again. and all that stuff. So please mount the like button for me, guys. Per usual, there is a shocking disparity between the number of people watching right now and the number of people who've mounted that like button for me. I would really appreciate it. Of course, please make sure you are subscribed on whatever platform you're watching on right now, whether that be YouTube or X or Rumble. I, of course, appreciate people who are watching over on Rumble. I've actually been getting more and more viewers over on Rumble, which is kind of unexpected and cool. Anyway, that's what we're watching, but I have a couple orders of business before we jump into it. Number one, per usual, please do make sure you are subscribed to my Substack, which is Carlyn, KARLYN.substack.com. There it is in all its glory. This is my main content hub on the internet. This is where I post all my best content. You're getting video clips, you're getting spy streams, you're getting articles breaking down the woke ideology in plain English, because I'm the only person on the internet breaking down the woke ideology in plain English that every single person can understand, including the newest article in the Woke 101 series earlier this week, What the Left Wants to Abolish. That is all the things you are going to lose when the left inevitably wins, to include your home, your land, your business, any sort of apartment complex you own that you're renting as a landlord, to include your parental rights, to include your individual liberties. I explain all that in the latest article in the Woke 101 series. And if you want to support the work I'm doing, because I'm completely 100% grassroots funded by you, please consider becoming a monthly or annual supporter on my Substack for $8 a month, $80 a year. You do get a variety of perks when you sign up, to include 2 Zoom calls with me every single week. We do them on Mondays and Wednesdays. We actually just did a Bitchcraft call earlier today. Bitchcraft happens once a month, where we basically get together on a Saturday and we craft or play with. I was playing with some slime today, or just like chit chat. Allison was talking about a zine project she's doing, which is really fun and creative. It was a great call earlier today. You get access to that when you become a supporter. You also get access to my supporter Discord. Now, lots of stuff happens on my supporter Discord, to include writers group on Thursday nights. If you're a writer, if you're a creator, there is actually a writers group that meets every Thursday night in my Discord, and they do different writing exercises. They help each other by critiquing each other's work. They have a great old time. People have actually produced books out of my Discord writing community that is, spearheaded by Lisa and Sin so expertly. We appreciate you guys. We also do movie night every Sunday at 8 p.m. And I got to be honest, I'm a little disappointed about this week's movie, because I wanted to watch Down with Love, because Down with Love is one of the most superior Valentine's Day movies. But no, I was outvoted, because even though I'm told daily on the internet that I'm running a cult and no one is ever allowed to disagree with me, my own community outvoted me in the movie night poll. Even though I begged, I pleaded, I cajoled, I browbeated people to try to get them to vote for Down with Love. No. My own community decided that we're watching 50 First Dates tomorrow, and I can't do anything about it. I might pull rank over Jennifer. I'm not happy about it. But anyway, apparently I don't always get my way in my own community. It's fine. You guys never do what I want you to do. I thought I was supposed to have a cult and an echo chamber that always agreed with me all the time. No. It's true. Proletariat revolted. It's true. Anyway, we do movie night every single Sunday, so even if 50 First Dates is not your favorite movie to watch, that's okay. We're probably going to be watching another movie next week that might be a better choice, like Down with Love, Jennifer. Anyway, come join us watching movie night. We always do trivia. It is actually a really good time. Even when the movie isn't my personal pick, it's still a good time. We do it every week, and we hope you guys can join us at some point if you have not already. How you're going to find access to that is every single Sunday I send out an email that looks like this from my supporter, from my Substack. Not this particular email, because this was last week's, but what you want to do when you get tomorrow's email is scroll all the way down to the bottom, and underneath this red box at the bottom will be all the supporter perks for the week. And I really do appreciate you guys. One more thing before we get started. Of course, another way you can support the work I'm doing is by heading over to unwokeart.com. Actually, I got three more things. I have 3 more things before we get started. I apologize. You can head over to the Unwoke Art store, where you've got one more day to get the special sale on the new Radical Anti-Democracy Extremist t-shirt, because I got put on a list of radical anti-democracy extremists in New Hampshire by Granite State Progress and Xandra, which is a progressive group in New Hampshire who just makes stuff up all the time. And apparently I'm such a radical anti-democracy extremist that I got put on the list twice. So I decided to make a t-shirt celebrating that I'm a radical anti-democracy extremist twice. And now you guys can take advantage of that as well. And of course, we know that when socialists say democracy, they really mean socialism. So I'm totally fine with being a radical anti-socialist extremist. I'm totally fine with that. You can pick up your shirt or hoodie or bag, or I think I had a tumbler. I do. I have a tumbler or whatever else in the Unwoke Art Store for 25% off through tomorrow only. You can also get the iconic, the original. I was telling people that socialists always lie months before James Lindsay started tweeting it on Twitter. I'm just saying. You can get the iconic Socialists Always Lie design for 25% off through tomorrow only. That is only good for designs for the radical anti-democracy extremists and the Socialists Always Lie design, which you can find on the homepage of the Unwoke Art Store. The discount is automatically applied at checkout, and there are all sorts of other awesome designs in the store as well. If you want to peruse what we got in there, get some Unwoke swag, and of course, all the purchases do go to fund the work I'm doing, and I really do appreciate it. Two more quick things. Well, one of them's a quick thing, one of them is not a quick thing. I have recently relaunched my clip channel. Now, this is something that I tried earlier in 2023, and then I completely reformatted my show. And so the clip channel didn't make any more sense for a while. But people ask me for clips all the time. And the reality is that I do actually put clips on my main YouTube channel, but my main YouTube channel is shadow banned, and so people don't get notified when I post them, which sucks. But I'm hopeful that with a clip channel, we can overcome the algorithm bullshit. So if you want the clip channel, I will be posting clips on there. I will still be posting clips on my main channel as well, mostly about the hardcore socialism stuff. But please make sure you are subscribed to my clip channel. I haven't really even talked about it that much, so we don't even, you're going to get in at like the very ground level because I don't even have that many subscribers on it because I just started talking about it. But make sure you head over there, get subscribed, and that is the last thing there. But now I have to pull up the rules because we always have to go through the rules on Socialism Saturday. Maybe not so much rules, but guidelines. Now, do we have anyone new to Socialism Saturday watching today? Do we have anyone new on Rumble or on YouTube? Let us know in the chat if you're new. Thank you guys for subscribing to the clip channel. I do appreciate it. So if you are relatively new to Socialism Saturday, I found that it's helpful to put these guidelines out. And even for people that have watched before, but maybe you forgot how this works, because this is not like other streams on the internet, okay? We have fun. We have a good time. We drink. We banter. All that's fine. But when you come to Socialism Saturday, you have to think of this as a class. This is the only way this is going to work. I've been doing this for a while now. I've learned a lot. I know what works. I know what doesn't. You are in a class. I am the teacher of the class. You are a student in the class. Now, if you don't like what I'm teaching or how I'm teaching it, you don't have to be here. You are welcome to go watch something else. But as long as you are in my class, you will follow my rules, because my ultimate priority is to teach the people who want to be here to learn, not to deal with shit posting and bullshit. Okay? So the reason we do Socialism Saturday is that socialists speak in a coded language. They may use the same vocabulary as us. They do not use the same dictionary as us. The purpose of this exercise is to listen to them talking to their people in context, to reverse engineer the language that they're using so that we can learn to understand them. In order to do that, I'm going to ask people to please refrain from debunking the socialist. Okay? I understand that you believe that socialists are insane and that all their ideas are bad. I get it. But if you are spending all your time debunking their ideas, that means you're not listening to them. And what I need you to do for this to work and for you to learn how to speak socialist is to listen to what they are saying. Just because you listen to someone doesn't mean you have to agree with them, okay? But every ounce of energy that you put into debunking them is wasted because it's not going to change anything. If debunking the socialist was all that was required, we would already be winning. But we're not winning. We're getting our asses kicked massively. So maybe it's time to try a different tactic and to learn to understand them and to understand how they see the world. That is the purpose of this, okay? If you have questions about what is going on, either the words that they're using, what they mean by something, please feel free to ask them in the chat. All questions are welcome, even dumb questions, but if you've been to a lot of my streams and I see you in the chat and you ask the same question over and over and over again, at some point, I'm going to expect that you know the answer to that question and you might not like the answer that you get. Okay. There are a lot of times when people ask me questions that they don't like the answer that I give them, and then they proceed to ask the same question over and over and over again, hoping that I'm going to give them a different answer. I am the most consistent bitch on this platform. You will not get a different answer from me, and asking me the same question over and over and over again is just going to piss me off because I teach by repetition. So I'm already saying the same things over and over and over again every single day to the point where it is driving me insane. And so I need everyone to work with me and to listen to when I answer the question the first or the second time, all right? But I don't want that to dissuade people from asking questions, especially for people who are new. I don't mind answering the question and repeating myself ad nauseum if it's a new person that's trying to understand, but I do mind it when you're trying to get me to give you a different answer, and that's not ever going to happen anyway. Number 4, normal chat rules do apply. Number 1, don't be a dick. Do not insult me. Do not insult other people in the chat. I can do whatever I want because you're in my house. You don't have to be here. Again, if you don't like me, if you think I'm a bitch, if you don't like my tone, that's fine. You know where the door is. You can leave, but you will not insult me and you will not insult other people in my chat. Number 2, no whining. I don't want to hear it. I don't have kids for a reason. I don't want to hear your whining and complaining and temper tantrums if you get an answer that you don't like or if I tell you to stop doing something, because that's just going to piss me off and annoy me. Both those things are going to result in you getting either timed out or banned from my chat, which is not what I want. But if you're acting like a 5-year-old, I'm going to damn well treat you like one and put you in a fucking timeout where you belong. Lastly, I understand that there are a lot of influencers on the internet who are teaching different things than I am. Those influencers are wrong. And they are wrong because they don't actually listen to the far left. If you want to bring those influencer talking points into my chat, that's probably not going to work out well for you. So I'm going to recommend that unless you're really bringing your A game, it is not a useful exercise to try to argue with me. Okay? I have watched more of this bullshit than anyone else on the planet that's not a socialist. I have analyzed more of these trainings, thousands of hours of them over the last 3 years than anyone else on the planet. So if you're going to come in and try to argue with me, then you better bring your A game, because it does happen every once in a blue moon where someone gets a point over on me, but it doesn't happen often. All right? If you don't like what I'm saying, if it hurts your feelings, you can go back and listen to the Daily Wire or Dan Bongino or any other fucking conservative influencer that doesn't know what they're talking about. And we just don't have to communicate. And that's totally fine with me, man. Totally fine. So those are the rules. That is the guys that we're working with. I hope everyone can agree to that. And now let's get into it. Let me see. Let me see. We are watching Our Role in Palestinian Liberation as Queer Jews. Again, everyone make sure to mount that like button for me. Let's see what the queer Jews are talking about today.
I'm going to take a moment. Okay, thank you. So Brand Israel was launched with the goal of protecting Israel's public image and distracting from the ongoing colonial violence and occupation of Palestine. So Israel was starting to have a really bad look. People were paying attention in a way they hadn't before, and Israel worked with US marketing experts to launch this campaign that painted Israel as progressive, modern, civilized, the only safe place for not only Jewish people, but also for queer people in the Middle East. And in doing that, it frames Palestinians as uncivilized, in need of civilizing, in need of saving, and it used pinkwashing as a strategy. And pinkwashing is using the guise of queer rights and queer liberation struggles.
This is what conservatives did.
To gloss over human rights violations and injustices. So Brand Israel, the pinkwashing part of that campaign is film festivals, visibility at pride parades, speaking events, free trips to Israel, tourism events, concerts, art events, you name it.
This is good beer.
That are really promoting this idea of Israel as what is a horrible term of gay Mecca. And pinkwashing is not only propaganda, but it's an extension of present and past colonial violence, and attempting to legitimize the violence of the state of Israel through demonizing and dehumanizing Palestinian people. So using racist and Islamophobic tropes to paint Palestinians as sexually regressive, uncivilized, and in need of saving, and Israel being their ultimate savior. And so this is harmful in so many ways. It denies homophobic oppression in Israel, which there is, as there is everywhere. It recruits queer people and their allies into unknowingly being complicit in the Israeli occupation. And it also, arguably most importantly, erases indigenous queer people in Palestine and in the diaspora, their lived experiences, their actual struggles on the ground, and their resistance efforts. So this is just an example of one of these trips, LGBT leaders' mission to Israel. I'll just let people look at that. I don't think I really need to say much. And also using this strategy that we see in the United States too, to shift queer liberation struggles, which are rooted in struggles against oppressive power structures, to focus on the right to serve in a violent military. And we see this in the United States too, and I just wanted to speak briefly about the United States and parallels here. I live in Seattle and I was a youth worker and was really active when this Safe Place campaign launched. And this was at the height of the Black Lives Matter movement and protests happening in Seattle. And this was like a rebranding campaign by the Seattle Police Department to, promote themselves as a safe haven for queer and trans young people, especially. And obviously we've all seen, and I don't need to show like more graphic instances of police brutality. But just here, it's just like so ironic that on these queer crosswalks that are painted in Seattle, in the name of Seattle being a queer friendly city, there's a cop attacking a protester in this way. And just, yeah, again, bringing home that like the queer liberation struggle is rooted in resistance to brutalization and criminalization of queer people at the hands of police and military forces. So we know that the liberation of queer people and any people can't come with bombs and violent occupation. So just lifting up some anti-pinkwashing efforts, that this is what we're—
Wow.
So crazy.
We can't paint.
Listen, I kind of every once in a while I kind of get on the side of the socialist every once in a while, and I don't like it when it happens, but I have to give the socialists credit for this. They're basically calling out Israel and the complicit media on the PR campaign bullshit to drive like public perception for Israel, and I have a deep appreciation for that, and they're right.
Thanks. Yeah, this can't be pinkwash. This is the colonization and the occupation of Palestine. This was at Pride Parade in Tel Aviv. And this is some of the most egregious pinkwashing ever. Soldiers in the current slaughter and genocide and besiegement of Gaza, saying the first ever pride flag raised in Gaza. This soldier wanted to send a message of hope to the people of Gaza living under Hamas brutality. The intention was to raise the first pride flag in Gaza as a call for peace and freedom. So this is just using this like old strategy of flipping the script of like, who is the colonizer and who is the colonized, who is the oppressor and who is the oppressed. And it's, if you're paying any attention, it's really, really obvious what they're doing. And then this is just the kind of speech that's often targeted to anti-pinkwashing activists and queer people fighting for a free Palestine, is that, by the way, you're gay, there's no safe place for you as a gay person in Palestine. If you went there for a second, you'd be killed. And
which is exactly what conservative influencers were doing for a while. And it wasn't even just like them, but they were like on this big Ben saying, you think we're homophobic? Oh no, you would be killed if you went to Palestine, which again isn't actually the truth, but okay.
It's just, again, really, really erasing the fact that there are queer people in Palestine on the ground, and there's struggles for queer liberation as there is everywhere. And also queer people are suffering in the same way that all Palestinians are suffering under an occupation and an apartheid state. So I also just wanted to, in my like preparing for this talk, just uncovered, even though I've been doing Palestine solidarity organizing for 15 years now, like there's so much that I'm learning right now and so much that I don't know. And I think a big point that was kind of raised for me in preparing this, and I think that I can't adequately cover everything I want to, is that like queer Palestinians, even in anti-pinkwashing organizing, are often left out of the conversation and we're sidetracked. So I just wanted to lift up some voices from queer Palestinians on the ground. Sorry, this is formatting weird, but I just really liked this text exchange and wanted to read it. So this was to a queer activist, I believe, in the United States. Text sent to him. It says, "Hey Matt, I'm a gay guy from Gaza. Seems that you are getting attacked a lot from different LGBTQ plus members for defending Palestinians. And their response is always that they kill gay people or they throw them from a building. LOL, which is not the case. Here is exactly how it goes in Gaza. Gaza is like lots of religious communities. Premarital sex is not very welcomed here. In case if any couples get caught doing it, they don't jail them, they inform their families about it, since Gaza community is a big family society. It's the exact
That's
same
interesting.
thing for gay sex. They would inform your family and the family will act accordingly. I'm not saying it's rainbow and the families usually will accept. Yes, the person might be forgiven or kicked out of the house or even killed. And from what we see, it's the same thing for all queer people around the world. So yes, queer people in Gaza might struggle to survive. And yes, we don't have pride. And I'm gonna be honest, we didn't even try to have one, because the right of having a queer pride comes after some basic rights are fulfilled. If we have power and time to fight for rights, we will fight for our freedom just for the mere fact that we are Palestinian. Our kids are being slaughtered by IDF. So yes, I'm gonna fight for our kids and people to be free and safe before fighting for my right to raise a pride flag in Gaza. Israel's government made Gaza an impossible place for queer people to exist, because when you starve people, kill them, not letting them go anywhere, queer rights will never be a priority, even for queer people. So I'm not gonna—
Are you guys understanding now why they were holding up those signs saying, until the Palestinians are free, we can never be free? Starting to make a little bit more sense why that happened? This is why we listen to them. because we find out the left is not insane. They're not. I know why a lot of people think that they are, but they're not insane. There are reasons that they do everything. And those reasons always align with the ideology. I can't think of one instance where we have been looking into some crazy thing that the left said or did and didn't discover that in actuality, once you understood the ideology, it aligned with it completely and totally. And this kind of seems to be no different.
Gonna raise a pride flag in the middle of Gaza just to satisfy and respond to privileged gay guys around the world who are supporting genocide, and I never will. And I'm running out of time, but just also wanted to lift up this group, Al Cause, which is a queer Palestinian grassroots organization on the ground in Palestine. And I got a lot out of reading this statement that they put out several years ago and a video accompanying it, and included that in the resource page. And
let's just pause a second, let the interpreters switch.
Okay.
And Kyle, can you make sure the closed captioning is accessible?
Socialists suck at technology. It's the way it goes.
Okay, looks like we're ready.
Okay, thanks. This is the last thing I'll read, and I won't read the whole thing, but I really encourage people to read the entire statement that was put out by Queers in Palestine. I included them in the resource page for this event. And this is just the demands, but there's a really amazing full statement. I'm just gonna read the do section and then I will pass it off because I know we have a lot of amazing content on this panel. So this is a demand from Queers in Palestine. Do what anti-colonial queers have done for decades. Reclaim the narrative and set the terms of the conversation, this time about Palestine. What is happening in Palestine is genocide. Israel is a settler colony. Palestinians are a militarily occupied and colonized society. Under international law, Israel does not have the right to defend itself against the population it occupies, while Palestinians have the right to resist their occupation. Demanding ceasefire is the first step in holding Israel accountable for its crimes against humanity. We must also demand to break the siege on Gaza and the dismantlement of the Zionist settler colony. So just wanted to lift that up, encourage people to look more into these demands and also Al Cause. And just one thing I forgot to say is, and this is also in a resource list, is just that the US Army is the largest source of violence in the world.
True.
The US military machine,
Socialists
and that also
get
the
some things
US
right
police
sometimes.
forces and the IDF have been in active collaboration with each other for at least 2 decades.
That's true.
Sharing their practices and training each other. So I think just really encouraging us to be connecting those dots and connecting our struggles here with the struggle for a free Palestine.
Thank you so much, Benny. I just can imagine talking for hours about this. I'm so grateful for all of the learning that you've done around pinkwashing and sharing it with us. And it's just so sickening. And I can really feel in my body this desire to learn more and connect with some of those resources you've shared and really resist it as a queer person, resist the narratives. Thank you so much for sharing all of that with us. We would like to also bring in Ray or Dove, if you would like to talk to us a little bit more about different angles of Israeli propaganda in the realm of greenwashing and what role it plays in the occupation and apartheid, and as well how water is weaponized in Palestine and Israel.
Well, we have a true expert in the room, Dove Baum, a dear friend and inspiration. I'm happy to give some general comments about greenwashing, or Dove would defer to you. Okay, I'll go ahead. And then keen to hear about your experience in both pink and greenwashing. Hi, everyone. Just taking a breath, breathing with you all, taking in all this information. When I think of pink and green, the themes of this event, I think of the sabra cactus, that sweet cactus fruit that grows in Palestine. In high school, I was very active with B'nai B'rith, BBYO, and my local chapter was called Sabra. What I didn't know at the time was that Zionist rhetoric was implicit in our youth programming, down to a slumber party event we had where we built the state of Israel as a map with graham crackers and chocolate.
What?
Palestine and Palestinians didn't exist on that map. This was a land without a people for a people without a land. And it really tasted so sweet. It's only in the last 15 years that I've been unlearning and uncovering the bitterness inherent in this Zionist narrative. And I will say I'm a recovering Zionist and actively seeking to co-create and be part of a Judaism that is beyond Zionism.
Wow.
And I just want to welcome people here wherever you are in that learning journey. I don't assume that we all come with the same facts or knowledge. And I know this is
great.
a moment where a lot of people are getting involved for the first time, paying attention to what's going on in Palestine. So welcome. What is greenwashing? I'm going to share a brief slide deck with you all. Hopefully you can see my screen. Greenwashing and definition is when a state or organization appeals to environmentalism in order to deflect attention from its harmful practices. So like pinkwashing, it's another tactic of what could be called brand Israel, to literally and metaphorically pave over the reality of occupation and of apartheid. I'm going to share a link in the chat to a really great article where you can read a lot more about this concept of greenwashing and find really good resources on the Decolonize Palestine website.
Al Gore would be a greenwasher then.
So greenwashing is this form of environmental racism that has been used by Zionists to depict ecological preservation and describe Israel as making the desert bloom, right? All while continuing to pollute Palestinian land, planting invasive species, building ecological preserves to cover up ethnically cleansed villages, and presenting a theft of Palestinian water as a miraculous answer to water scarcity. It's a lot of propaganda to cover up the displacement and uprooting of Palestinians. There's this mythology that was perpetrated by Herzl and others that people living in Palestine didn't know how to do agriculture or how to make things grow, right? This like, we're going to come in with modern technology and make the desert bloom. And the reality is that, you know, this is a land that's been fertile for centuries, hence the name, the Fertile Crescent. I wanted to quote Michael Newman, this American Jewish philosopher, who said, "It doesn't matter if Zionists achieved wonderful things or turned the desert green. That I do wonderful things while acquiring the power of life and death over you hardly legitimizes my venture. It does not matter if Palestine was or wasn't a poor neglected area. This could not possibly give anyone supreme power over its inhabitants." So false and wrong basis of this ideology. And some of you might be familiar with this box. This is a JNF donation box for the Jewish National Fund. JNF was established in 1901 in Switzerland and has played a key role in the Zionist movement in displacing indigenous Palestinians and paving over the ruins of Palestinian villages by planting invasive trees. I'm one of the people that on my bat mitzvah year went to Palestine and planted one of these invasive trees.
Really? That's a thing?
And I will place a link in the chat to a really good fact sheet about the JNF that you can find at the Institute of Middle East Understanding.
Well, okay.
So there's a really...
So Kaiwan is bringing up an interesting point, because we, of course, say socialists always lie, except in regards to the Israel-Palestine stuff. And I'm not saying that everything socialists say in regards to Palestine is true. We should always, anytime a socialist says something, we need to view it with an air of skepticism. However, we also know that the Palestinian freedom movement has existed for a really long time and was its own kind of separate entity. And then it was hijacked by the far left social justice activists. And we know that because we very literally watched a presentation with Angela Davis, the chief communist herself, where Angela Davis said that they hijacked the Palestinian freedom movement and basically absorbed it into the social justice left. And so what I find is that there are still a lot of people who are like, their only issue is the Palestinian freedom movement. And those people actually tend to be more truthful than like the average socialist is. But that's not to say that everything they're saying is the truth, and we always need to be skeptical of it. But on this specific issue, and I'm not saying like I don't support the pro-Hamas protesters, but on the specific issue of like the bullshit that's been going on in Palestine for like a long time, they tend to be more accurate on this issue than they are on many other issues.
Active campaign to protest the JNF. This is an action from about a week ago. Friends in Denver doing a lockdown outside of their global conference. Another way this is being protested is by the Israeli group Zochrot, which created an app called iNakba.
Remember, guys, like socialists are great at creating problems where no legitimate problem exists. But in the case of the Palestinians, this is actually a legitimate problem. This is real. And I know there's been a lot of like many differing opinions on this, but the reality is that Palestine's been like an open air concentration camp for like 20 years. And this is a real problem that a lot of people, not just leftists, have been like focused on for a long time. And so it's one of those instances where like it's a rare moment where socialists are actually focused on a real problem, but they are trying to hijack it for their own purposes. And we always need to be mindful of that because many of them don't actually care about the problem. They're just trying to hijack it to use it to gain political points. But this is actually a real problem, which is different than most of the things that socialists talk about.
Where you can literally GPS yourself and find where you are in the destroyed village that may have existed right where.
Yes, many of them did. This is what I just said, Stony Baloney. The Palestinian freedom movement has been around for a long ass time, and I know that because it was around when I was it's been around since I was like young. Like it's been around since I was in college. I know that, and so they've been talking about this forever, but it did get hijacked by the socialist left to gain political points. So again, you have this issue, you have this situation where like some of the people that you're going to hear from in regards to the Palestinian freedom stuff have been talking about this problem for a long ass time. And then some people are just Johnny-come-latelys who are hijacking it as part of the left. But this is not the case that they have not been talking about it for a long time. That's just provably untrue. Yes, it is. It is very literally an open. Could they leave? Could they leave? Could they leave without going through a checkpoint? Could they leave? Oh, you fell for conservative propaganda? Oh, that's too bad for you. You should really stop doing that.
Where you're standing in Israel-Palestine. There's an article here on how Israel is erasing the Nakba through nature. And I just highlight this card from an organization I work with called Beautiful Trouble. It's called the principle of making the invisible visible, right? So I think Nakba is a great example of that, of really making visible the attempted erasure of Palestinian villages. You may have seen this pretty famous photo, a Palestinian woman clinging to her olive tree as trees are being destroyed by the Israeli occupation
I don't know why
forces.
we're not seeing anything. They haven't
Of
figured out their
course, we know
technology yet.
the importance of trees in the Jewish tradition, Etz Chaim, the tree of life, that we are asked or commanded not to destroy trees. This is an abomination. It was a learning for me how valuable olive trees are in Palestinian community and society, and the idea that trees are part of our family. This is another form of resistance, protest, or sumud, steadfastness. Our friends at the Tent of Nations, Daoud Nasser and his family, who have had incredible farm and welcomed people from around the world to come and plant olive trees, and have faced again and again.
No, the vote to empower Hamas was not the implementation of a socialist utopia, and every single conservative that's telling you it is lying to you, so you should really stop listening to them. That's because you haven't been listening, Sunspot, because they actually very literally explained this earlier in the presentation. So maybe you got here a little bit late and maybe you didn't see it, but anyone who's been listening since the beginning of this presentation can already answer this question because they very literally explained it.
Repression from the Israeli occupation forces, destroying their trees, their orchards, cutting off their supply of electricity, and making life unmanageable, to which they have responded by creating off-grid structures and systems for resistance and for thriving. Speaking of energy, I just wanted to touch on how solar energy is a big industry in the settlements now. Yet another form of greenwashing to say that the desert is blooming with solar energy. I don't have time to touch on the green-blue New Deal that is happening between Jordan and Israel, but something to look into to understand how climate resilience is being used as another way to continue and perpetuate the occupation. You can see in the lower right a solar panel in Gaza that was destroyed by
why can't we see the slides?
Bombing, by Israeli airstrikes from 2022. And I won't go into detail with all these images, but I just wanted to mention about water, because here we are, we're the mikveh.
Does it ever actually change where we can see the slides that she's talking about? It kind of seems like it doesn't. Seriously?
Community, right? We're committed to doing ritual in water. But the Visualizing Palestine organization.
If you can't leave without going through a checkpoint, it is an open air concentration camp. You're very little. This is like saying if you live in the state of New Hampshire, Carlin, but you have to go through an Israeli checkpoint to leave the state of New Hampshire, but there are mansions in the state of New Hampshire, that's just totally fine. Just because you have to go and get permission from another government to leave your own state, that doesn't mean because there are mansions there, so it must be totally fine that they keep you isolated. Are you fucking stupid? I remember banning you from my channel once, and then I unbanned a bunch of people, and now you're back. But you're already kind of proving to me that you might be too stupid to be here, if I'm being honest about it. We'll see. We'll see.
Organization has provided a lot of useful graphics for understanding the extreme denial of water and lack of access to healthy drinking water, especially in Gaza right now. So people in Gaza have lost 97% of their average daily water consumption. The water is extremely contaminated. And I'll share the links to these as well. And the 97% of the water is contaminated and undrinkable. In the 2014 Israeli bombardment of Gaza, it almost completely halted wastewater treatment. Millions of cubic meters of wastewater were dumped completely untreated into the sea. right? This dumping deteriorates the marine environment, turning 70% of Gaza's seashore unfit for recreational activities. And of course, harming the biodiversity.
And guys, just so you're clear, this is the kind of stuff that will get you permanently banned from my chat, because I told you very clearly at the beginning, you will not insult me, you will not insult other people in the chat. I can do whatever I want because you're in my fucking house. Johnny Boy is now being escorted out of my house, never to return. Goodbye, Johnny, get the fuck out.
Either. So this is a quote from Hiba TV, who's at CARES Gaza and West Bank County Director. My biggest fear is that waterborne diseases and dehydration will be more destructive than the bombing. And then, of course, we know that there are major environmental costs of war, always. Someone I want to recommend folks follow is Mazen Kumsia, who's a co-founder, creator of the Palestinian Museum for Natural History based outside of Bethlehem. And he does a lot of research on the environmental impacts of occupation. And just like in the climate crisis, youth are the biggest affected often by war. I am committed not to showing pictures of dead or mutilated children or people in the presentations and talks that I've been asked to give to support Palestinian freedom. This is a photo of a young girl who's participating in the UN supported Guinness World Book record making kite flying.
I'm going to get really bored. We're at 24 minutes, 35 seconds. Did she just seriously show like an entire presentation without actually changing the slides? Okay. I'm going to get really bored really quickly of looking at the same slide because socialists can't figure out their own technology. I want to go to part 2 of this presentation and see if they actually figure out the slide issue. Because if they do, we'll just watch that. Is that okay with people? Because I really don't want to just look at the same thing for the entire presentation. Let's see. There she is. Figured out how her camera works at least. They, them. Of course, a they, them. Like, I couldn't even follow what she was saying.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to our role in Palestinian liberation as queer Jews, a conversation on intersectionality, water, and international solidarity, hosted by Queer Mikvah Project. My name is Rebecca Erev, and I and Rebecca Maria Goldschmidt, who's one of our panelists today, and Kyle Rocco East are the Queer Mikvah Project team. And we're also really happy to welcome a full ASL interpretation team. We have 2 deaf interpreters and 2 hearing interpreters. Thank you, Jennifer, Yay, Joe, and Trisha. And a little visual.
Did you just wait 5 minutes to be able to spam my chat while learning absolutely nothing about what they believe? Are you a conservative that literally just subscribed to my channel to wait 5 minutes to spam my chat with nonsense, with conservative fucking propaganda? Because you didn't bother to actually listen to what was being said? So you have no understanding? That's not what we do here, bitch. This is not what we do here. There will be none of this bullshit in my chat. Well, then what you need to do is to go back and watch the first part of the presentation where they literally explain that. And I'm not going to put up with any bullshit in my chat. No spamming.
Visual description of me. I am a white person with brown hair, bangs, the top bun-ish, brown glasses, some sparkly purple lipstick, and a quilted vest, gold necklace, and another quilted colorful piece behind me. And we are here in a disability justice framework event.
Oh, good.
which
Disability
means
justice.
Take care of yourself. Anytime you need to take a break, shut off your camera.
We haven't gotten into
bathroom,
disability justice
do
lately.
whatever you need to move around. Please do that. And feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. A lot of times we share our names, our pronouns, what brings us here, where the lands we're coming from.
And I am telling you that this is not what we do here. And if you continue to do this, I'm just going to ban you from my channel so we don't have to listen to you anymore. We are listening right now. We are not rage posting in the fucking chat. This is not about you. Good. Go away.
And anything else you want to share so we can build community and get to know each other in the small ways we can on these cyber networks. I'm really excited to introduce a fabulous panel today. And we'll share their bios in the chat as they come up to speak. But we're welcoming today Penny Rosenwasser, Zephyr Elise,
She's high.
Dean Spade, Mordecai Cohen Ettinger, and Rebecca Maria Goldschmidt. What we'll do today is we'll hear from a few speakers, and then we'll take a little Q&A. Penny needs to leave a little early, so we want to give her time to answer any questions. And then we'll go back to hearing from one more person and open up the Q&A again. And I'm going to hand it over to Oren for a little tech orientation.
Oh, maybe they learned how to actually share their screen this time.
Rebecca. Welcome, everyone. My name is Oren. I use they or any pronouns. I'm one of tonight's tech support. And some things we want you to know about tonight's Zoom. In the bottom, you can find the CC icon, which you can tap to show captions. And if anything comes up that you need tech support with, you can find my name with an asterisk and the words tech support in the participants tab and send me a private chat. And with that, I'll hand it back to you, Rebecca.
Thanks, Oren.
Thank you, great conservative. I really appreciate that.
Is we're also doing a bit of a fundraiser today for Queer Mikveh Project. We're a very small organization, and because of our anti-Zionist politics as a Jewish project, it's been really challenging for us to fundraise. So we'll do a little bit about that at the end, but the other thing I wanted to mention is that we're doing a dual fundraiser. So we're splitting the money that we raise with a mental health clinic that we've developed a relationship with in the West Bank. So last time we did an event, we were able to send them $4,000, and we didn't split.
Seriously?
We didn't split equally. So Queer Mikveh Project did under 2,000. But
how did they
really
raise $6,000?
to send that much money to them in a time when they really.
If you would like to donate to support my work, you can head over to Carlyn, KARLYN.substack.com, because if these people are able to fundraise $6,000 doing God knows what, then all of you should be able to pony up $8 a month or $80 a year to support the work I'm doing, breaking down the woke ideology in plain English, doing investigative and undercover journalism into what they're doing, going undercover at their events, stuff like that, doing Socialism Saturday, doing almost daily live streams showing you what's going on, stuff no one else on the internet is showing you. Because if these people can raise $6,000, then I feel like we have no excuse. karlyn.substack.com, karlyn.substack.com. Go to subscribe. $8 a month, $80 a year. I really appreciate you.
Really need it. The other thing I want to mention is our beloved queer mikvah project friend, Zephyr Elise, who is also a panelist today, may have the opportunity to join the Conscious Convoy. So Oren will put that in the chat and you can learn more about it. So if they are able to do that, we will be helping to fundraise for them to do that too. And one of the ways that we'll do that is to gather gift miles. So you can donate miles via the airlines, and we'll put in the chat the airlines that we can collect miles from. So if you are someone who has miles from those 3 airlines, send us an email, please, and we'll be in touch with you if it comes through that Zephyr's able to do this.
$6,000 fucking dollars. Jesus Christ.
Thanks in advance for keeping an eye out on
Jesus
that.
Christ.
And, maybe someone will put our email in the chat as well. Okay. And with that, we're going to move on to our panelists. And I'd like to welcome Penny Rosenwasser first. Hi, Penny.
Hi, Rebecca.
We're going to ask Penny about her anti-Zionist organizing today, but just a little tidbit about Penny that maybe we'll talk to her more about another time. She also has done
send me your airline miles too.
Lesbian
please
music community too. So maybe we'll hear some stories about that another time. But for now, we're going to focus on this question, and Penny, feel free to answer this however you like. How can we use our bodies, which are mostly made of water, as agents of change to align global movements for liberation? How can we mobilize our Jewish and queer communities in the work for a free Palestine?
Thank you so much, Rebecca. I'm honored to be here and with all these panelists. Mordecai, it's been a minute. It's really nice to see your face. I'm white, short brown hair with a little gray and a little red, black glasses, silver earrings, black clothing. And apologies that I have to leave a little bit early. I'm sorry. And I just wanted to start by saying what I know, I'm sure everyone on the panel, we're together on this, just acknowledging that today the death toll in Gaza from Israeli genocide is almost 20,000 people killed, 2/3 women and children, 1,200 or so Israelis killed, and just want to say, may all their memories be for a blessing.
That's crazy.
Since this is a queer panel, and I guess I'm the elder here, I thought it would be useful to include some of the early lesbian queer leadership who have used our bodies in solidarity with Palestine. First Intifada, 1987, Hagar Rublev, one of the key leaders of the Israeli women's peace movement, and that women's peace movement was considered the heart of the Israeli peace movement in that Intifada. Hagar was a co-founder of Women in Black in Israel. And for those of you unfamiliar with it, I just wanted to share, Women in Black was founded in the trajectory of the Women of the Black Sash in South Africa, the Mothers of the Disappeared in Argentina, so nonviolent women's peace movements. So right after the start of the first Intifada, Jewish women in Israel and Palestinian citizens of Israel started having these vigils in major cities around Israel. Every Friday at noon for an hour, dressed in black, completely silent, holding signs, so using their bodies to hold these signs that said Daila Kibush in Hebrew, or end the occupation. Many people around them would call them traitor or whore, threw eggs and tomatoes at them. Very important movement. It spread to the US and all over the world. So Hagar was a co-founder of that group, and later, and a queer lesbian.
That is a good point.
Want to make sure
Bill.
that's an assumption.
Bodies is non-binary.
She also later co-founded Bat Shalom, a very important Jewish women's peace organization in Israel, translates as Daughters of Peace. And they worked deeply and authentically with between Israeli and Palestinian women. And also a lesbian leader of the Israeli women's peace movement at that time, Haya Shalom, Sephardic, working class. Her family lived in Israel for centuries. Haya was actually nominated among 1,000 women for the Nobel Peace Prize. And together, Haya and Hagar used their bodies, again, holding signs and banners at Women in Black at these vigils every week, but also led peace marches throughout Jerusalem. I got to be with them in 1989, 5,000 women, Israeli Jews and Palestinian citizens of Israel marching through Jerusalem against the occupation. In the US, also many lesbians among them. And in the US, many lesbians have been part of the peace movement here, and queer folks. In the 1980s, a very important group called New York Women Jews Against the Occupation that included wonderful lesbian leaders, Irina Klepvich and Melanie K. Kantrowitz, both white Ashkenazi Jews. More recently, Jewish Voice for Peace was co-founded in 1996 by three young white Jewish women, one of whom was a lesbian, Julia Kaplan, still very active. Of course, the director of Jewish Voice for Peace is a fantastic queer Jewish leader, Stephanie Fox. Both Stephanie and Julia have often put their bodies on the line in solidarity with Palestine. And then I also wanted to share with you, in 2002, I was part of a group of Jews in the Bay Area who put JVP on the map and really made visible in a new way Jewish opposition to the occupation by putting our bodies on the line. It was myself and Cecily Saraski were two of the three leaders of this action. This is when Israel invaded Jenin refugee camp and slaughtered 50 Palestinians and destroyed many homes. And in 48 hours, we organized this action. We sat in at the Israeli consulate in San Francisco and closed it down. And then we went out on the street on Montgomery Street. There were 13 of us, including Micah Bazant. I can't remember everyone, but definitely queers were in the house. We shut down Montgomery Street, were arrested. And again, that got major headlines in the Bay Area around Jews against the occupation. And then just, of course, since October 7th, I mean, we know many, many, many amazing visible actions with a lot of queer Jews in the leadership, putting our bodies on the line in incredible ways. At the Oakland Federal Building last month, 700 of us occupied the federal building for 7 hours. A lot of the leadership was young queer Jews. And 472 of us were arrested. And I was one of the song leaders and chant leaders along with Cole Kravitz. So again, queer visible leadership here. And for 7 hours, we were leading songs and chants. And I remember leading Lo Yisa Goy, the Israeli peace song. And I was saying the English words, and everyone neath the vine and fig tree shall live in peace and unafraid. And I felt the tears because I was thinking of the children in Gaza who were not living in peace and were terrified. And I threw my arms up, and the AP photographer took that picture and was in the LA Times and the Washington Post, because I think it exemplified how we were all feeling. But that was a really very much using my body through that whole action. And then this past Monday, I was very honored to be among 18 Jewish women elders who chained ourselves to the White House fence.
Oh, she was in that
calling
group.
for
Did you guys see that on the
ceasefire,
news?
immediate and permanent.
I remember that.
On the day that Biden was holding a Hanukkah party inside the White House that night. It was very powerful to be there. Many of us lesbians are queer, and we were supported by this fantastic group of mostly young queer activists from New York City who trained us and helped.
Did you hear her say, this is like a small thing, but I think it's important. Hang on, let me just go back. Many of us lesbians are queer. What does it mean that she said, many of us lesbians are queer? No, she didn't say lesbians are queer. That's not what she said. Don't make shit up. She said, many of us lesbians are queer. She didn't say all lesbians are queer. What does that mean? That means many of the lesbians are socialists. Many lesbians are socialist, but not all socialist, because queer is not about your sexuality. Queer is not about being gay. It's not about being a lesbian. It's not about being bisexual. It's not about being pansexual. It's not about being any of the other things. It's not about being trans. It's not about anything other than a far left political ideology. And she is acknowledging that by saying, many of us lesbians are also queer. That's an admission that those are two different things.
Mostly young queer activists from New York City who trained us and helped us chain ourselves and fed us. And it was a very intergenerational action, just as as the elders, we were the ones who were the most visible, but I just wanted to make sure to include that. And I just wanted to end with a little bit about solidarity. Some of you are maybe familiar with the quote from my mentor of blessed memory, Melanie K. Kantrowitz, white Jewish lesbian leader, who said, solidarity is the political version of love. And I wanted to also share this quote from another mentor.
Solidarity is the political version of love. So every time they say solidarity, it's a big thing to say you're in solidarity with someone. I remember when I was DMing with Sophie on Instagram, and Sophie Lewis is our favorite abolish the family socialist, and occasionally I DM with Sophie on Instagram. Occasionally. Sometimes she talks back to me. Sometimes I just DM her stuff just to see what she does with it. Anyway, I was DMing with Sophie on Instagram, and Sophie was yelling at me because I said to Sophie, I was like, Sophie, you know you guys are winning, right? And then Sophie yelled at me. And then I said, Sophie, why don't you come on my YouTube channel and tell people about your ideas? And then Sophie was like, I don't want people to think we're in solidarity. I'm like, it's okay, Sophie. We can make sure people know that we're not in solidarity. It's fine. And now we know that solidarity is the political version of love. Isn't that nice?
Mentor of mine, Aurora Levins Morales, queer, Puerto Rican Jewish poet, historian, activist. And this is an excerpt of something Aurora wrote where she said, I am a daughter of people who were outgunned and refused to die. I am a fierce Latina Jew holding out a rose to Palestine. And I'll just end with these two. This was an excerpt of something written years ago by the youth wing of Jewish Voice for Peace. And one of the main writers of it was a young queer Palestinian Jew, Amira Mizrahi. And they wrote, we refuse to knowingly oppress others. We refuse to oppress each other. We will not carry the legacy of terror. We won't buy the logic that slaughter means safety. We commit to equality, solidarity, and integrity. We seek breathing room and dignity for all people. And I'll just end by saying, for me, I'm a leader in my synagogue, a racial justice leader. For me, ethnic cleansing and genocide is not my Judaism. Let's create queer solidarity that is accountable, resilient, and shot through with great swaths of love. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you so much, Penny. You can see the love and appreciation.
Yes,
for
we can
you
all
and
see
your
the
work.
solidarity.
I'm so moved by the legacy and history of all of you, all the ways that you have woven and met your stream, moved it with the whole river of this movement. And the honor that you pay to those who have mentored you and to those who have laid the foundation for so much of the work that we are doing today. And it really makes me think about, like, when I was at the action at the Capitol building in October, where we got arrested in the rotunda, I just remember feeling with my body, why would anyone
They get to go in the Capitol and not
support
and
Israel
not
when
get
you could
charged
be
as a
a part
terrorist.
of this work of love? And that the
By
difference of
the way, speaking of the Capitol, this is a little bit off topic. A friend of mine who was at the Capitol on January 6th, and I'm not going to say who it is, but like a friend of mine who was at the Capitol, did nothing, didn't go in the building, didn't do anything. He just got called. The FBI showed up at his house this week to question him about January 6th. Over 3 years later. And he called me. He was like, "Well, Carlin, my time has come. I know you got interviewed by the FBI, so should I do it?" Because he was debating. He was like, "Do I even get interviewed by the FBI?" Like, I was like, "Just go." Because, like, when I got interviewed by the FBI, it was literally like less than 15 minutes. And they just said, "Did you go in the building?" And I said, "No." And they said, "What was it like being there?" And I said, "Pretty crazy." And they were like, "Okay, thanks." And I said, I asked them, like, I asked them, "Did you get my name because some crazy person on the internet gave it to you?" And they were like, "Yup." I was like, "I thought so. Okay. I'm glad we're all on the same page that I didn't do anything illegal. Thank you." And I never heard about it since, because I didn't do anything. Like, whatever. But, like, I was like, they showed up at your house 3 years later, bro? That's crazy. So prayers for my friend who got his first FBI visit. It's always a fun time when you get your first FBI visit.
I mean, it's in a way selfish, of just a quality of life, of if you can open your heart and be a part of liberation movements, that how much that gives you, whereas hating and violence just tears away at your soul. So thank you for being an example of someone who's lets their heart be broken and walks in love in their life.
Thank you, Allison. So, silly question. So, queers for Palestine means socialists for Palestine. Yes. Exactly, Allison. Exactly. Anytime you guys see the word queer, you need to remember that it is not about being gay. It's not about being trans. It's not about that at all. It is about a far left political ideology. And that's it. I mean, it didn't for me. Like, I've flown since I got interviewed by the FBI, and it hasn't been any different. Well, yeah, I mean, guys, if the FBI shows up at your house, always contact an attorney. I had to pay $2,000 to an attorney for a 15-minute interview, but I feel like that was probably the best decision I could have made. I got to write it off on my taxes anyway, so, like, whatever. And then when the fucking IRS audited me for the same fucking thing, I had to prove to them that I hired the attorney around January 6th, and that was another pain in the ass. But yeah, always hire an attorney.
Which brings us to Zephyr, also a walker of love in this life. And Zephyr is, we'll put their bio in the chat. You can learn a little bit more about them.
My slime's getting all over my
But we'll
microphone.
ask you
No.
about a bit about, we started to learn a bit last week in our panel how Zionism falsely claims Jewish indigeneity to Palestine in order to justify colonizing the land. And so some things we'd love to hear your thoughts on is, how does understanding Palestinians as indigenous shift the narrative? What role does global cross-indigenous organizing play in collective struggles for liberation? And I know you have so much direct experience with that, and your role at spending 4 months at Standing Rock. So thanks, Zephyr.
Those small questions, eh? I thought we were going to do something simple. Genjuaki, greetings, everyone. I just need a moment to land with you
They
and celebrate
pronouns.
that there are this many people that want to gather on a Monday evening and celebrate who we are, celebrate where we come from, celebrate what we're dreaming together.
It's all very touching.
Thank you for having me. Visual description, I am a mixed race, slightly lighter than my usual olive, lush, melanated complexion would be from here in the Pacific Northwest. I have curly, short, salt and pepper hair, wearing an awesome button-up from the 60s. That was my queer two-spirit uncles. Got a little collared vest and a nice purple button-up coat that my mama made
This
for me
is like
about
a
10 years ago.
sensual fucking
And my
visual
background
acknowledgement.
is a painting I just painted for a fundraiser for the Palestinian Children's Relief Fund that the Rachel Corrie Foundation put on in Olympia. It's a rendition of the Palestinian.
All right. I am not going to speed it up. I see people in the chat keep asking for that. That's not going to happen. That's not what we do here. We take our time with things and we actually listen, and you are not listening when you are speeding things up for expediency. You guys can leave at any time. You don't have to be here.
Flag as thought about in textile patterns with the kufiya in the middle as the white, olive branches and olives as the green, a traditional Tetris pattern for the red, and a tile pattern that represents the mosque of Palestine for the black part. And there is a poem that I wrote out. It's Jabalia by Suhair Hamad, an amazing Palestinian poet who donated it for this use. So it's always a circle, right? We're gathering in circle. And even in this one piece, that was a circle that brought that together. So thanks y'all for being here in this circle. And appreciation to this relative that's doing all this hard work, making sure the words are being heard and felt by the spirit ears. No matter what our ears can hear, no matter what we can see, we have eyes and ears of our heart, as my Nunna elders teach, that can hear beyond language. Spirit talks in all language. I reckon I'm on the hook for this question because I'm an Indigenous Jew. My people are indigenous to the places now occupied by modern-day Mexico. But my ancestors also survived invasions by the Nahua Empire, by the Spanish Empire, by the Mexican government. And yet, after 520 years of some of the most intense and hard of turning times, we still remain. Similarly, as Jews, as my Mizrahi and Sephardi and Beit Israel ancestors have faced centuries and millennia of changing times of targeted oppressions, of harms and of genocides, yet we still remain. And those resiliencies are here in us. But if I'm coming from an indigenous perspective, if I'm coming from the traditions that were born of the earth and the water and the air, where my ancestors' ancestors first became the people, because they were called, they were created. In our tradition, we sprang from one specific sacred stream. That was the place where we made connection to this earth. And we were given the roles and responsibilities, the deep relationships to all life around us. That is what defines our indigeneity. Indigenous is not coming from any book, any list, any role, any card that can be given by any government or occupying power. It is a direct, lifelong ceremony and commitment. In our prayer, in a lot of our prayers, and I'll also say there's no one way to be Indigenous. We are 1,500 known nations, and that doesn't count all clans and families and houses outside of that. But that's 1,500 known nations of ways to be Indigenous, and as many Indigenous people there are, as many Two-Spirits as
If anyone is wondering, they really do talk like this, even when they're not on camera. This is not just performative. They actually do talk like this.
there are. That's how many ways there are to have an Indigenous practice. But in my personal way, we prove our indigeneity by how we walk on this earth, and we do it gently. Each footstep is a prayer that asks permission of this earth that we all share, this ancient grandmother we all share, for permission to go in that way and to do so gently, and to take that step, making it better, to honor all the 7 generations that came before, and to think about the implications that our actions have on the 7 generations that go forward. We can't own anything. We can't own land. We can't own trees. We can't own water. We're just...
We can't own anything. We can't own land. We can't own trees. We can't own water. We're just here to caretake for them. And then we pass them on, just as our ancestors and elders took care of those precious, beautiful life sources and gifted them to us as our birthright. What is the goal of the socialist left? What is the primary goal of the socialist left? Pop quiz. What is the primary goal of the socialist left? It's to get rid of capitalism, which they define as private property ownership. She's talking about private property ownership. This is why we listen to everything and we don't fast forward. They're talking about removing capitalism and collectivizing everything. The main goal of the woke left is to abolish capitalism. It means destroying capitalism, which they mean as private property ownership. Let's go back and listen again.
Generations that came before, and to think about the implications that our actions have on the 7 generations that go forward. We can't own anything. We can't own land. We can't own trees. We can't own water. We're just here to caretake for them. And then we pass them on, just as our ancestors and our elders caretake those precious, beautiful life sources and gifted them to us as our birthright. But once again, right?
They are not the owners of the land. This is a critically important thing in understanding how they see themselves. They do not see themselves as the owners of the land. They see themselves as the caretakers of the land. Those are 2 different things. Their argument when they're talking about colonization or imperialism, and colonization is considered to be a subset of imperialism, so they may use either word, or colonialization, colonialism, whatever, it doesn't really matter. They all mean the same thing. When they're talking about colonialism, as in settler colonialism, which is what is going on, what they perceive to be going on with Israel and Palestine, is that the settler colonists, Israel, the Jews, came in and took their birthright, the land that they were gifted to caretake for, away from them and privatized it under the oppressive force of capitalism. That's what colonization means. They were no longer the caretakers of the land because the evil capitalist colonizers came in and took it away from them. They colonized it. That's what that means. And privatize the land so it was taken away from the indigenous people. When they're talking about decolonization, they're not talking about violent revolution, though sometimes it can take that form, but not always. They're talking about taking back the land that is their birthright and collectivizing it rather than having it be privatized under the oppressive force of capitalism. Does that make sense to everyone? Because no, Beth, they don't see themselves as the owners. They see themselves as the caretakers. Those are two different things. Someone can own something and not be taking care of it. Does that make sense to everyone? Bill says Indigenous people in Australia call themselves the traditional owners. That makes sense. How different is colonization than contemporary compartmentalizing? I don't know what you mean when you say contemporary compartmentalizing, so you have to provide me with a definition of that. That's not something the left talks about. Rottweiler, thank you for the super chat. The same argument applies to children. Everyone, the collective, is the caretaker of the children, and the family is in the way. That's a great point, Rottweiler. I appreciate it.
It isn't a right that I have something, I own something. My same birthright I have from my birth.
Hang on.
A duty.
No, this isn't correct, Jeffrey. They are not saying the capitalists own nothing. That's not what they're saying. They're saying that they want to abolish all private property so that no one owns it. We are all the caretakers. Like, it turns the community into the caretakers rather than the owners. These are two different things. Colonization means introducing capitalism, which is private. It is, guys, it is critically important that every single time you guys are saying the word capitalism, that you make sure you emphasize that capitalism is defined as private property ownership, because most people do not define capitalism as private property ownership. And most people do not understand that when the left is saying capitalism, they are explicitly and exclusively defining it as private property ownership. So every time you guys are teaching this stuff, and this is just, I'm not trying to criticize you, Milo, I'm just making sure this is clear. Every time you are teaching this to other people, you need to explicitly tell them that capitalism is defined as private property ownership. Otherwise, they are not going to understand what you're saying. Colonization equals introducing private property ownership. Decolonization means taking away private property ownership. Or you can say capitalism too, but you just have to say colonization means introducing capitalism, which means private property ownership. Decolonization means destroying capitalism, which means like abolishing all private property ownership. Does that make sense? We watched one several months ago, Stony Baloney, specifically about private property. What was it? It was a Red May one. I don't know. You can go back and look at the Socialism Saturday episodes, but we actually have done this. That was when the Groypers raided my stream, and then I got pissed off. But it was actually a great episode, other than the Groypers coming and completely disrupting my fucking stream. Well, that's why they want to abolish the courts. They've explicitly talked about wanting to abolish the courts. So now you understand why. Well, Brennan, I had to learn that too. Don't kick yourself. I had to learn that too every single time I said capitalism, and people are like, capitalism sucks, Caroline. Capitalism means crony capitalism. It's totally corrupt. And I was like, you're playing right into the hands of the left. And the reason is that they didn't understand that the left explicitly defines capitalism as private property ownership. Yeah, they're already winning, Melissa, so I wouldn't be too sure that that's not going to happen because they're winning. So they're winning massively, they're winning badly. We are getting our asses kicked up and down. So just because your friends own private property doesn't mean they're not winning. Well, yeah, Milo, this is true. Milo says to deny private property is to deny ownership of self. In the Socialism Saturday we did on what the hell was it called? It was something of property. It had property in the title. I just forget what it was. But they explicitly said that individual liberties is a form of private property. So that's when I say that they want to abolish individual liberties, that I mean that like they explicitly say that that is a form of private property. Well, it will end badly, Melissa, but it's not going to end badly for them. It's going to end badly for us because they're winning. They're going to win. It's not like conservatives are doing nothing to fight back against them. Conservatives are letting them steamroll. Conservatives oftentimes are the ones implementing their own policies. So they're going to win. It's not going to end badly for them. It's going to end badly for us.
A sacred commitment, an honorable commitment to caretake and to pass on. So if we acknowledge this as how we came to be the people of place, let's look at what Indigenous is not. Indigenous is not cementing over ancient springs to stop sources of life. We say Miniwachoni and Lakota lands out at Studying Rock, right? Water is life. All the ways you can say water is sacred. In our prayers, we say earth, my body, water, my blood, air, my breath, fire, my spirit. We're not disconnected. How could you possibly commodify, control, or own something that is part of us, but that we are also part of in this ancient sacred web?
Yeah, Nacho, that has absolutely nothing to do with what we're talking about. So I'm sorry, I don't have a good answer for you because you're bringing in ideas that have absolutely no relevance to what we're talking about right now. So I can't answer your question. I'm sorry.
Of life. You know, Indigenous does not raise the lands and salt the lands that give the food. It doesn't target the animals for harm. Indigenous elders, grandmothers, uncles and aunties, and our two-spirit defenders have always, when attacks have come for our ancient forest, they have always gone to protect. They will throw down and put their bodies and their prayers and their medicine powers in front of whatever is coming to harm those ancient sacred trees, whether it's a small grove or a giant forest, small oasis. We've all seen those images of that elder Palestinian relative who, when the IUF came to burn down that 1,000-year-old.
So you think we've already lost and it's too far gone to be saved? Yep. Yep. Because conservatives are useless and feckless and stupid and ridiculous. And I'm not talking about you personally or anyone else personally. I'm saying in general, conservatives are ridiculous. They can't focus on anything. They have no idea what they're doing. Conservatives are so bad that they are losing to these people. They do not listen to reason. They don't want to understand what they're fighting. They have no desire to do anything but to shill for their influencers who they worship as gods, even as their influencers are lying to them just to take their money. So yeah, there ain't nothing we can do. And the reason that we are going to lose is because the right is so awful that they are allowing these people to walk all over them all day, every day. And there aren't enough of us to stop. There aren't enough people who know what's going on to stop them. So yeah, we're going to lose. We're going to lose. It's going to be 15 to 20 years, maybe 25 at an outset. But we're going to lose, and we're going to lose in our lifetime because the conservative right is so fucking ridiculous that there is no way that anything they do is going to result in any progress in beating these people off.
olive grove, what did she do? She grabbed that trunk of that olive tree and she wept. Each tear of prayer for protection, for help, for a miracle. As Indigenous people, we cannot separate ourselves from our surroundings any more than we could step out of the roles and responsibilities we have to them or our communities. It's just as natural as breathing. To be Indigenous in an era of imperialism that goes far beyond this war, and actually far beyond the 500 years that Turtle Island has been occupied. This is multiple millennia where spirit sickness has come and infected different nations at different times, thinking, oh, I can be higher by making everything else lower. And wherever this idea has come, any of the earth people, any of the water people,
The earth people.
any of the protectors of the airs and the mysteries that go along with the lands, that's the focus, that's the target of the violence, of the hatred, of the dehumanization. It's where the name calling starts. It's where the othering begins, because it's so much easier to exterminate something that isn't quite like you, isn't human like you. Be outraged if you were going through this, but if you're not me, if you're not human, then it doesn't matter.
Rottweiler, thank you for the super chat. Ron Carlin, conservatives have memes and what is a woman? I'm just a Debbie Downer. Yes, I'm just a Debbie Downer with a bad attitude that yells at my audience. And oh my God, don't you know Carlin is so mean and Carlin is a narcissist and Carlin just yells at people and Carlin doesn't do anything. And, you know, James Lindsay's going to save everyone. And I'm just doing nothing over here except being mean to my audience. And Carlin's basically created a cult on the internet. And that's all Carlin really does. And blah, 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 blah. And isn't she mean? And isn't she a bitch because she doesn't tell us the things we want to hear? I know, I'm such a Debbie Downer. I know. God, I really hope the energy gets picked up in this because this is disappointing to me. I wanted more queer Jew. Like, I'm not feeling the queer Jew here. Come on.
Look at all that we've allowed, all the harm in our modern world that we've allowed because we've stepped away from connection to each other in this earth. Would we allow what's going on in Philistine to ever happen?
I just cause drama. I just fight with people.
But similarly, would we allow what we see on the 5 going by those industrial meat markets?
Appreciate
where those
it.
hell beings are just put in a concentration camp of their own and taken away from a natural life and commodified to feed us. As Indigenous people, our very identity is commodified. This idea of Israelis as Indigenous. Think about what happened to us as Indigenous people here. Someone came from across the water and were scared and had been harmed in the place they called home. And as Indigenous people, we opened up our arms, and my Nuna people, we were the first ones to hit the Spaniards. They were scared. They were starving. They weren't okay. And we took them in and we fed them, tried to teach them how to bathe because somebody had to do it. The world needed to know bathing is okay, you're not going to die. We taught them how to be in our new world. And what did they do but decide that their only safety was to come and to harm us, and to harm us in the most violent manner, in some of the deepest betrayals. But as Indigenous people, we would defend, and this is another thing, you know, as anti-Zionist Jews, we can be in solidarity with our Palestinian relatives, but we don't get to dictate how their liberation looks and how they get there. As Indigenous people, we alone get to dictate how we get free. But you best understand, as Indigenous people, we have teachings. We have callings to defend, and we have sacred callings to defend and to fight, to protect the lands, the waters, the elders, the culture, the language. But that also means there's going to be a soul cost. We're going to have to pay a soul cost, and we can only...
I want you guys to hear that when they're talking about like their responsibility to the land, they believe this is a life calling. This is not just some whim. This is not insanity. This is, they believe this is their life calling. That's a big deal, guys. If you believe that something is your life calling, ain't no amount of ridicule gonna take you away from going after that thing, because it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The ridicule that you get only reinforces the necessity of the calling. This is why, like, people think that if they just ridicule these college students on college campuses, like the pro-Hamas people, they think if they ridicule them, if they make them the target of public scorn, if they get them fired from their jobs, if they get them kicked out of school, if they get them blacklisted from Wall Street, they think that eventually they're going to smarten up. But every single attack that they receive just emphasizes to them the importance of the nature of the calling that they feel they have. This is how martyrs are created. Does that make sense to people?
Do what we're willing to pay a soul cost. And in my nation, if you went and you fought and you took life, you could never come back. No matter how justified, you did not get to come back to community because you could not bring that hurt to the next generation that was coming up. You had to go apart. It was a deep cost. Indigenous people are willing.
Yes,
to
I
pay the
consider
deep
socialists
cost.
a cult. I do. Yep.
Occupiers only know to write checks that they don't believe they're ever going to have to pay for. And they hurt all life. So to kind of close out here, you know, as Indigenous people, you know, our Indigenous governments, our occupation governments that are tried again.
And this is why, like, I keep trying to tell people, like, decolonization doesn't necessarily mean violent revolution, because a lot of conservative influencers started telling people that because, like, Hamas was engaging in violent revolution, that decolonization meant violent revolution. That's not what it means. In fact, what's going on in America, how they're winning in America, is they're doing it through policy and procedure. They're not actually doing it through violent revolution. However, they are fully and completely willing to engage in violence. And they absolutely believe there's going to need to be violence in the United States at some point. They're not afraid of it. They're preparing for it. We've watched presentations of them talking about them getting armed. They're not afraid of it. And when the violence starts in America, they're going to consider themselves to be martyrs to the revolution. So it's not their first option. They would much rather do the policy and procedure thing because that's just much more effective, like at getting what they want slowly over the course of time. They have no problem doing it. But they will consider themselves to be martyrs when the violence starts, and they are going to get violent at some point. So if you don't have guns in your house, you need to get guns. Nope. These are not useful idiots. No. These are not useful idiots. Useful idiots are not willing to sacrifice themselves as martyrs in the revolution. These are true believers. They believe they have a calling from a higher power in order to be able to do this. They are part of a cult in which they only talk to each other. They don't talk to people outside of their cult. The cult reinforces the belief system. And when the violence starts, they are the ones that believe they are taking righteous action, and they are perfectly willing to die for their cause. They are not afraid of it. I cannot emphasize this enough. They are not afraid of violence when it comes to that, and they are not afraid of dying.
And in Indian form, as Bureau of Indian Governments, they're slower to do these letters and signals of solidarity for Palestine. But our frontliners, all of us from day one, let's go. Because this is the same struggle. We don't have to be told how We need to support. We understand this story. It is written in our blood. It is written in our ancestor stories. We have already done every single thing that is going on there. Granted, the technology is newer and that is changing, but the viciousness we have always survived. So we are there and we are down and we are telling the world to join us.
Hang on.
Because the world.
The violence, when it actually starts to break out, is not going to be the Battle of Berkeley. It's not going to be the Chaz. It's going to be way worse. It's going to be, this is not, that shit was a minor, little, teeny, tiny skirmish compared to what I'm talking about. That's not what we're talking about. It is going to be worse than anything that we have seen before.
It needs to stand together. This is a moment where we all build a really big, beautiful dream for all of us together, where none of us get to go. We're still in climate crisis, wars and white phosphorus.
Wait, James is fighting with Karen Ann Harlos? Karen Ann Harlos is a lying cunt. I'm going to say that. Karen Ann Harlos, and I know this, I supported Karen Ann. I had nothing but respect for Karen Ann. When I stood up for the chair of the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire, who got totally and completely effed by the people running the Twitter account, Karen Ann Harlos blocked me on Facebook, blocked me on Twitter, and said she was doing it because I was the one causing drama. And then several months later, I asked Trendelin, because Karen Ann Harlos was going to speak at the Libertarian Party of California convention or something like that. And Trendelin, who is in the community, is on the executive committee for the Libertarian Party of California. And I asked Trendelin to ask Karen Ann Harlos why she blocked me. And Karen Ann Harlos lied to Trendelin and said that I had really blocked her and I caused all the problems. When in fact, I wasn't even speaking to Karen Ann Harlos when she blocked me. I was noting that the chair of the LPNH got wrongfully removed because of the people running the Twitter. And Karen Ann Harlos took such umbrage with that she threw a massive fucking hissy fit. So I don't care that James is feuding with Karen Ann Harlos, because I think that Karen Ann Harlos is just as much of a shill as James is. But that's still funny that they're feuding. It's still funny to me. Like, when people that I dislike are fighting each other, that's only entertainment. But Karen Ann Harlos was wrong. Karen Ann Harlos is a liar. And I feel really, really betrayed by her. And she can suck a dick. And she is less valuable than James. I'm sorry. Karen Ann Harlos is less valuable than James Lindsay. James Lindsay has his faults, man, but he still has a tremendous amount of value. Karen Ann Harlos has significantly less value than James Lindsay. Yes, the one with the pink hair.
And harming the land and poisoning the water is never going to be an indigenous practice. And it's definitely not going to be an indigenous practice when our ancient grandmother Earth is asking us to slow everything down and stop what we've been doing to get to a better world for all of us and to try to have something for tomorrow.
I didn't want to have any beef with Karen Ann. She's the one that started it with me.
Ooh.
Thank you so much, Zephyr, for that calling in, helping us feel, and reminding us all that we're a part of a whole. We're all these little drops that are a part of the ocean. And thank you for all the work that you do to welcome us into our lives as prayers and our work.
Hopefully we get more energy now.
As prayers.
Maybe I just need to drink more.
And with that, we're going to move on and hear from Dean Spade.
Her brownies have kicked in, obviously.
Gaza is often referred to as the world's largest open-air prison.
Yes.
Wondering if you can speak a bit to the intersections between organizing for abolition, which you've done a lot of work around, and organizing for Palestinian liberation.
Yeah. Thank you for
Oh,
organizing this.
Trans.
Thanks to the interpreters.
Trans, he, him.
And the tech people. I'm Dean. I'm a white trans person wearing a black shirt. And the background is my house. One obvious connection is the material reality. Really similar conditions of caging people in many places in the world. Right now, as I understand it, there's more Palestinians in Israeli jails and prisons than there have been in decades. And those people are facing conditions that we could see overlapping with conditions faced by immigrants in prisons in the United States, people in jails and prisons in the criminal legal system, people in psychiatric and medical confinement, things like thirst, starvation, healthcare denial, all kinds of violence, including sexual violence. And simultaneously, the literal apparatuses that make that happen are very shared. Like many of the same prison and war profiteering companies are building the material conditions for caging people here and there, the walls, the weapons, and literally US tax dollars funding it here and there. So the overlap in the organizing is very inherent at the base level to just the material conditions. And there's the same, bipartisan support for Israeli colonialism throughout the US government, all the presidents, Democrat or Republican, and those people all also support the other forms of imprisonment happening here in the US that abolitionists oppose. So it's just same targets, whether it's profiteers or politicians, all the people, all the elites making this happen. I think another sort of part of abolitionist organizing that's overlapping with Palestinian liberation work is an awareness that the nature of these systems is what it is, that racial capitalism and colonialism need to cage people.
Pop quiz for the chat. What does racial capitalism mean? What does racial capitalism mean? I know this is a low energy presentation, but we're going to make sure we can get everything we can out of it. What does racial capitalism mean? Yeah, tokenism, but give me more. It means, not exactly, but not exactly. What does racial capitalism mean? We need to wake everyone up. No, not what bot said. Nope. Damn bank tried to fraud my account. What? Oh, assholes. Thank you, Tayton. Appreciate it. Racial capitalism means that no, that's not what it means. That's not what it means. Come on, guys. I know you know what this means. Nope. That's not what it means. Guys. Just because this is boring doesn't mean that you guys get to descend into the land of retardia. What does racial capitalism mean? This is not what it means. This is not what it means at all. Nope, this is not what it means. This is not what it means. Guys, we've done whole presentations on racial capitalism. How is this happening right now? For real? For real? Guys, I can't say that you guys are smarter when James Lindsay when you're descending into the land of retardia. Nope. No. That's not what racial capitalism is. Nope, that's not what it is. You guys are not thinking about this. No. You guys keep giving the same answer over and over again, and I keep telling you no. Let me go back to Jason's answer, because Jason's answer is actually the closest answer so far to what the answer is. Jason just said tokenism. Jason's been listening. The rest of you have not been listening. What does racial capitalism mean? This is actually more entertaining than the presentation. What does racial capitalism mean? Nope. Still not seeing the answer. Still not seeing it. We're not moving forward until someone gives me the answer. Nope. It does not mean diversity hire, Jason. That's not what it means. Nope. Bot is starting to get a little bit closer to it. Bot has now given a slightly correct answer, though not all correct. Nick has obviously been doing some Googling, which I appreciate. When you don't know the answer, look it up. Don't just fucking guess. Don't just throw keywords at me. Don't do that. You're all better than that. Racial capitalism, the process of deriving value from the racial identity of others, harms the individual affected and society as a whole. Now, what does that mean? What does racial capitalism mean? Rottweiler, you fucking know the answer to this, Rottweiler. I know you know the answer to this. I've seen you answer this question before. I am live Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. and Saturdays at 6 p.m. religiously. Regardless of whether you guys get notifications, I'm still live. YouTube stopped sending out notifications on my content years ago. I am live Monday through Friday at 5 p.m., Saturdays at 6 p.m. Put a notification in your phone, put a notification in your calendar, because don't rely on YouTube. I keep telling you guys this. Now, what does racial capitalism mean? No. No. We're going to go back to Nick's answer. You guys are descending into the land of retardia tonight, for real. Racial capitalism, the process of deriving value from the racial identity of others, harms the individuals affected and society as a whole. What does that mean? I wouldn't put workers in there. I would just say exploiting non-whites for capitalist pursuits. Okay. Guys. I'm seriously on the verge of just shutting down this entire stream and going and hanging out with my husband. I am really, really, really disappointed in you guys right now. I have flat out told you the answer from the people that are putting up something that remotely resembles it on several occasions now. And you're still not listening, and you're just throwing out buzzwords in my chat, which leads me to believe that you don't actually know what it is. I have literally put the correct fucking answer on the screen, and you guys are still throwing out ideas that have nothing to do with the correct answer. What does racial capitalism mean? If no one gets the right answer, I'm ending the stream and I'm going to go hang out with my husband. I'm not even fucking joking. No. Right answer is literally right on the screen. It's literally on the fucking screen. No. There are no right answers in the chat right now. What does racial come on. I'm going to end the stream if you guys don't get it together. Because if you guys can't answer this question, there's no point in continuing this misery. I'm just going to end the stream. I'm giving you 2 more minutes to get the correct answer, and then I'm ending the stream. Now we're getting closer. I swear to God, if you guys just fucking keep guessing just to throw out buzzwords, I'm starting to get pissed, okay? There are a couple people who are doing the right thing and you're looking it up. There are a lot of people who are not bothering to do anything other than throw out buzzwords. And that's really fucking pissing me off. Do not just throw out buzzwords and expect that I'm going to accept that as the answer. What does racial capitalism mean? I have already given you the answer several times. Literally, all you need to do is put it in your own fucking words, and you guys are still guessing and just throwing out buzzwords because you're not listening. One more minute. If I don't see a fucking sea of correct answers, I'm ending the stream. I'm not joking. No, Patrick, I will not be explaining it. I've already explained it several times over. No one's listening. If you guys aren't going to listen when you're given the correct answer, and then you're just going to continue to give wrong fucking answers. No. No. I'm not seeing any correct answers. Okay. Time's up. Stream's over. Have a good one, guys. Bye.